Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Court sentences leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, to life imprisonment over terrorism charges. U.S. Congress adjourns public hearing on Nigeria over allegation of Christian genocide and violations of religious freedom. President Trump threatens Democratic lawmakers over call on military to reject any illegal orders they may receive.
And in business, CBN alerts Nigerians as fake microfinance bank opens branches in 4 states across the country.
And in sports, Democratic Republic of Congo to face winner between New Caledonia and Jamaica for a place in FIFA 2026 World Cup.
Welcome. Tonight begins now. We'll begin tonight with a landmark ruling by the Federal High Court in Abuja, which convicted the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, on all 7 counts, bordering on terrorism, treasonable felony, and public incitement. While delivering judgment, Justice James Omotosho sentenced Kanu to life imprisonment and ordered that he be remanded in any custodial facility with adequate security nationwide. News Center's correspondent Joshua Imaraye now reports.
As early as 7 a.m., the entire premises of the Federal High Court in Abuja was cordoned off by officers of the Department of State Services and other security operatives. Security was tight, movement restricted, and anticipation high as the court prepared to deliver judgment in the long-running suit. When proceedings commenced, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, was given the opportunity to adopt some of his processes before the court.
My lord, I am the defendant.
The situation soon escalated as Kanu, visibly agitated, caused a scene inside the courtroom. This forced the judge to order security operatives to take him out, prompting a short adjournment. After the court reconvened, the prosecution counsel and senior advocate of Nigeria, Adegboyega Awolowo, after citing relevant section of the law, prayed the court to proceed with the judgment in Kanu's absence. In a brief ruling, Justice Omotosho held that Kanu had abused all rights and privileges granted to him by the court and decided to continue the judgment without him present. Delivering judgment, Justice Omotosho found Kanu guilty on all counts as charged by the Department of State Services. He then sentenced him to life imprisonment on counts 1, 4, 5, and 6, 20 years imprisonment for count 3, and 5 years imprisonment with no option of fine for the remaining count. Counsel to the federal government, speaking for the first time since the trial began, reacted to the judgment.
Today, we have come to a final end. Justice has been done. And therefore, Nigerians must, one way or the other, appreciate the judiciary.
Also, consultants to Nnamdi Kanu who expressed dissatisfaction with the judgment gave their own reactions.
The judgment is not based on law. It's not based on facts. It's based on politics. It's based on some tribal, primordial sentiments. Just because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is Igbo.
It's because of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. You cannot give this kind of judgment to a northerner. You cannot give it to a southwesterner. You cannot give it to another tribe in Nigeria apart from the Igbos. And we are going to start against it because it has happened in this country against some other persons, including Abiola. The Igbos join hands together to fight against it. Why should we be our own time and everybody's sitting akimbo? It's unfair. Thank you.
They confirmed that the convicted leader of the indigenous people of Biafra will head to the Court of Appeal in the coming days. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imaraye.
Joshua, who was at the Federal High Court during the proceedings and the eventual sentencing, who brought us that report, joins us live now alongside lawyers Liberaso Shoma and Jide Ologu, who is with me in the studio. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I will just start with you, Joshua, for further details. You were at the sentencing and you watched everything that transpired. would you say he was given a fair hearing?
Remember that this particular case was instituted in the courtroom of Joseph Kanu.
Okay, Joshua, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you. We can barely hear you. The audio from your end is pretty bad. We'll just let it slide for now and see if we can come back to you before the conversation is over. But let's bring in Libora Soshoma, who is also joining us virtually. Thank you again for being here. I mean, we watched the prosecuting counsel say on the one hand that this is the final end. And we know from media reports now that the consultant to Nnamdi Kanu is saying that they are going to appeal the case as well as bring up other issues. First off, was this an expected verdict based on the proceedings that have gone? And second, what would be your response to tribal connotation that we saw in that report?
It's quite unfortunate that when issues like this happen, rather than look at the law and look at the behavior and the demeanor of the people involved, we begin to read tribal connotation to it. And it's very unfortunate. But these are not as unexpected, because I can tell you that it is happening because really you are in a country where some persons will preach repentance and rehabilitation for terrorists and Boko Haram militants and bandits. And when also Nnamdi Kanu has been facing trial for years now. So, but be that as it may, I also knew that to answer your question about whether this was expected, I expected this the moment Nnamdi Kanu elected to defend himself, and the way he has carried on and exhibited, himself in court. I knew that certainly he was like a man who has doused himself with fuel and is holding a matchstick and saying nothing will happen. If you look at, I've had, because I had the privilege of listening to the judgment, and I have a copy of the judgment. I have also, looked at it thoroughly. Nnamdi Kanu actually played himself, into the hands of the prosecutor. Even as a lawyer, when you're facing such a criminal trial, it is always advisable that you employ the services of a colleague to defend your matter. He kept shouting on them that there is no law, that is not charged under any law, because the terrorism prevention law of 2013 has been repealed. But he forgot that Section 97 of the 2023 law saved any act that had been taken prior to the repeal. And Section 4 of the Interpretation Act also provides that any law that is repealed, there's what we call it the saving sections of the law. So the fact that the law is repealed does not extinguish every action that had been taken prior to the repealed law, or any case that is ongoing filed pursuant to that law. So in all of this, and then you keep going back and forth. You had filed a no-case submission, and the court ruled that you have a case to answer. You didn't even bother. Initially, you said you were going to call star witnesses, you were going to call governors, ministers, and thereafter you abandoned that line, and you
I'm sorry to interject.
In your favor. That's for me was really, really a no-no.
All right, I understand we have Joshua Imari again. Joshua, if you can hear me, just go ahead and recap your thoughts, please.
Well, from the start of the case, I can confirm to you that Nnamdi Kanu has nothing been guaranteed but a fair hearing. Nnamdi Kanu was given a fair hearing. Of course, you know that this case was instituted in Justice Binta Nyako's court. Nnamdi Kanu, out of sheer loss of confidence in the court of Justice Binta Nyako, told Justice Binta Nyako to recuse herself. And Justice Binta Nyako recused herself, and the case was transferred to Justice James Omotosho. Several times Nnamdi Kanu came to court. Several times he was some sort of unruly to the court. He threw tantrums, was very aggressive with security operatives, even to his own lawyers. We could see viral videos of him shouting at his own lawyers. And several times he has said that he should be granted fair hearing, and he was granted fair hearing. Now, from what we saw in the case, there was a day where Nnamdi Kanu alleged that operatives of the DSS are dropping into his conversation with his lawyers, and he told the court that the court should set aside a day for him to confer with his lawyers during the trial session. And the court vacated one full day, did not hold any business.
Yes, I mean, most of us followed that judgment live as it was being read, and we heard the judge give his explanation as to why certain actions were taken. But, I mean, the optics say he was given a fair hearing. What was the mood like after that verdict? I saw you spoke to some of his supporters outside the court premises.
Well, of course, as expected, they were angry. They were not happy with the court ruling. They were not happy with the judgment of Justice James Omotosho. They even alleged political and tribal undertone to the entire situation and the entire proceedings. They were discontented, disgruntled with the proceedings. And right from the very onset, when they come out from the court, they tell us a different thing. And during the court proceedings, we see a different thing. That is what we thought. Of course, we knew right from the onset that they were not going to be happy with any ruling that emanated from the court. It showed that from their body language, from their demeanor, from the way they conducted themselves, it showed that they were not going to be happy with whatever comes out from the judgment. And it was so. That was what we witnessed in courts today.
Joshua, just hang on a moment. Let me come to Jide, who has patiently been waiting for his turn to speak in the studio. I mean, is it a fair hearing in your thinking, based on the explanation we've had from the judge while he was ruling and the explanation given by my colleague? This isn't the end, it seems, with the request that, I mean, the claims that they're going to go further to appeal this matter. How long do you think this case will continue for now?
Because after this verdict, the Court of Appeal is still there. And depending on how it runs in the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court is there where you can go, and that is the final point in the matter, you know, since 1963 when we became a republic. So, but having said all that, definitely he will be kept in custody, and the Honorable Justice has requested that it has to be a custodial facility that is secure, you know, and on the question of whether he's been given fair hearing. Yeah, for those who monitored the prosecution diligently, you can come to a conclusion that he was offered that fair hearing opportunities, because what Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says is that somebody who is brought on a criminal allegation is presumed innocent until the allegations are proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And the prosecution presented 5 witnesses and came to a conclusion that he had a case to answer. But he filed a no case to answer submission, which the court rejected. And he had the opportunity to defend himself through legal experts. And by his own volition, he dismantled his legal team and turned them away and addressed the court that he was going to defend himself, got his case file, and came to court to tell the court that there wasn't any extant law on which he should be prosecuted. So he was given the opportunity of fair hearing. And the Honorable Justice Omotosho even warned him, begged him in the name of God, that please get legal experts. In fact, we offer you legal aid, which he rejected. And on a final note, again, when you are brought to court, your demeanor is very, very crucial. And you
the court did speak strongly as to his behavior,
that he was unruly, and those dramas, you know, practically through the case.
Like it or not, he said something that a lot of Nigerians are now picking on. His drama at the opening when he requested for final statements, and the court saying, hold on. Will this impact the subsequent conversation or hearings on this matter in another court? Liberals, please. Liberals, please. The question is for you. Okay, I don't think Liberals can hear us. Liberals, if you can hear me, the question is for you. The drama around his final statement. Okay, I'll put that question to you, Jide.
Yes, his demeanor, what will happen is that subsequently, if he is to be brought before the court, there will be extra steps taken to ensure that he doesn't end up attacking anyone. You heard him telling someone in the court that God will punish you. So those dramas are really not necessary. You know, we were taught in the law school to focus on issues. You know, sensationalizing issues does not help. And that is why, for those who are talking about political interpretations and things, I mean, this is a pure process of the law. The charges were clear, and we have laws to back them up. Inciting violence, many have been killed, and these are issues, you know, through his broadcast and everything. So, and I think we should really, really, really learn. In fact, by virtue of the provisions of the law, he was liable to capital punishment, but that was toned down to say life imprisonment. But at this point in time, he has the opportunities of
so many
going
questions
on appeal.
Struggling to come out, but we're out of time for this conversation. So I'll just say thank you very much, Jide Lugu, for being here with us. And Joshua, we let you go now. Please go catch your rest. It's been a long day. Thank you for being here. Coming up, News Central hosts town hall series on ending the scourge of gender-based violence in Nigeria. We have that after the break. Stay with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Court sentences leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, to life imprisonment over terrorism charges. U.S. Congress adjourns public hearing on Nigeria over allegation of Christian genocide and violations of religious freedom. President Trump threatens Democratic lawmakers over call on military to reject any illegal orders they may receive. Now let's tell you about News Central's Town Hall series, one of our flagship programs. A Place at the Table has highlighted discussions on gender-based violence, convening advocates, policymakers, and key stakeholders to tackle issues around gender-based violence. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
News Central Television, through its Town Hall series and flagship program, A Place at the Table, has once again turned the spotlight on conversations around gender-based violence, bringing together advocates, policymakers and all key stakeholders with the aim of addressing issues of GBV.
The entire production team, I'm going to charge them and say to them, they must do this again and again and again until we get to that point where we can say, in Lagos and across Nigeria, gender-based violence is reduced to the barest minimum, possibly eliminated completely from our nation.
Despite the advocacy for GBV over the years, cultural practices and societal norms have been a hindrance, hence the need to deploy the power of storytelling and strong policies to change the narrative.
Just for people to get awareness and to have understanding that they're not supposed, setting cultural parties to not help us in any way. And if you're having a culture that is having a very adverse, horrific effect on the people, what is the use of the culture?
If we have the right set of people, the policies, the programs and all of that, it would fall into place naturally. But be that as it may, We must continue to participate. We must continue to engage. We must continue to involve the right set of government personnel in the right sort of conversations.
Security agencies are usually the first point of call in seeking justice for victims of GBV, thus the need for prompt reporting of cases. In the same vein, religious leaders' role in addressing issues of gender-based violence was also highlighted.
Those evidences that are supposed to have been gotten from the medical expert to be able to hear that matter will still be there. It will not be eroded. I will report promptly quite a number of things that will be able to be able to interrogate the suspect over will still be there as evidence.
People who are church attendees, people of faith, they trust men and women of faith a lot. So they have to be very careful to be sure that they are not unknowingly enabling domestic abuse.
While reporting of cases remain pivotal to winning the war against GBV, advocates shed light on factors responsible for the underreporting of cases.
It takes a lot for somebody to come out to say that I've been raped or sexually assaulted. And because, so there is the fear that they will not be believed. There's the fear that, stigma. There is that, and sometimes it takes a lot of courage for a survivor to report.
The consensus at New Central's town hall meeting was for all stakeholders to make concerted effort towards minimizing cases of GBV, if not completely eradicating the menace from society. In Lagos, for New Central, Omolola Ololade.
News just in. Olusegun Awolowo, the grandson of Nigeria's late nationalist and statesman, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, is dead. The family confirmed the demise of the 62-year-old distinguished lawyer on Thursday. Meanwhile, Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun has described the passing of Mr. Olusegun Awolowo as a deeply profound personal loss. The governor, in a condolence message, said the death of the lawyer and former executive director, CEO of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council at 62 came as a rude shock. Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Makurdi, Wilfred Anagbe, has warned in testimony before the United States House Subcommittee on Africa that Christianity faces the risk of being wiped out in parts of the North and Middle Belt. Anagbe told U.S. lawmakers on Thursday that Nigeria was entering one of its darkest periods for Christians, citing unrelenting killings, mass displacement, and targeted attacks carried out with impunity. Meanwhile, U.S. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs has criticized President Donald Trump's threat of unilateral military action in Nigeria over alleged Christian genocide, describing the rhetoric as reckless and potentially dangerous for communities already facing widespread insecurity.
To have the privilege of witnessing, the privilege of experiencing. I'm not talking as a privilege of opinion. Mr. Chairman, ranking members, distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me back to testify on the escalating crisis of Christian persecution and genocide in Nigeria. 6 months ago, precisely on 13th March 2025, when I last appeared before this committee, I warned that the situation was there and demanded urgent attention. Tragically, the past half year has proven those warnings understated the continued attack on vulnerable Christian villages by the Fulani ethnic militia and their counterparts, both in the middle belt of Nigeria and elsewhere in the country. Since my testimony in March 2025, credible reports from organizations monitoring religious freedom.
Founder and General Overseer of Living Waters Unlimited, Rev Ladi Thompson, joins me now for this conversation. Thank you for joining us. Let's just establish your thoughts on the allegations about the U.S. president that led to this hearing on Christian genocide in Nigeria.
Well, in one statement, let me sum it up. I think it's the same as an allegation that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Could you take that again, please?
I said to you, my answer is simple. You're talking about an alleged genocide. And I'm saying that there's an alleged publication that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Talking about alleged and this new phraseology in the war of narratives with which...
okay, I get you now. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the ongoing U.S. Congress open hearing that's started today and adjourned?
Well, let me say this to you quickly. My own emphasis has never been just on what the U.S. is doing. And I welcome this hearing for the simple fact that there's a truth that Nigeria refuses to acknowledge. And unfortunately, because we have refused to acknowledge this truth, God has had to raise external voices to prod us to give value to human worth. So there's nothing new about what is going on, the hearings. There have been hearings like this over the past 20 years. I want to thank people like Frank Wolf. The Congressman Chris Smith has always been there to protect the lives of Africans and Nigerians in particular. And I want to tell you that the only difference this time around is the fact that somehow Donald J. Trump, instead of toeing the line that presidents of America before him have done, which is to trade Nigeria off in what they describe as the pacification of terrorists with territories, he has chosen instead to give value to the life of the Nigerian citizen in a way that neither the Nigerian government, nor the Nigerian media, nor Nigerian politicians, nor Nigerian education, and all the institutes that are charged with bettering the life of citizens in a way they have not given value to the life of citizens.
Okay, so let's talk about how the U.S. government's stance and potential policy responses, such as sanctions, threat of sanctions, and humanitarian aid withdrawal will impact the situation on the ground in Nigeria. I mean, we heard Sara Jacobs talk about not supporting the rhetoric about coming in and using force not to exacerbate the situation for those who are already suffering.
Not for her to talk, and thank God for whatever experience she has. But if I was to pick up my phone now and 300 families at least to give you what their experience is, and then to imagine that God has raised somebody who will give value to their lives, and then to imagine that somebody is denying. Now, this is of African lead. First of all, Nigeria is a country that is so compromised, it's amazing. And I'm not surprised, because if you have a presidency that believes that any problem that money cannot solve can be solved by more money. So I'm not surprised that despite the fact that poverty has been weaponized, and a presidency that is denying an obvious truth, to what lengths will it not go to support the lie that it is projecting? Unfortunately for Nigeria, I remember it was Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa on the 7th, was it, of October in 1960, who attended the United Nations General Assembly meeting, who spoke about where Nigeria is today, right now. And he said when this day comes, he gave us an advice that we should use what? Eternal truths. Leave lies behind.
Okay, I didn't quite... perhaps I missed it. I didn't quite get your response to the impact this is likely to have in Nigeria. But let's get away a bit from the accusation and the explanation on the reality of the situation. And let's talk about what the main challenge is in addressing religious violence and protecting minority communities like Christians in Nigeria, especially in the local context and regional, basically local context, really.
The issue at stake is not a minority. The problem on ground is bigger than religion, accepted, but it involves religion. To understand, that what we're dealing with is much bigger, as it were, than mere politics. I don't know if you're following me or not.
Yeah, I'm trying because I'm trying so you can perhaps highlight and point us in the way to go, whether it is the politicians or the people. You said most of us are culpable in what is going on with Christians. So I want you to talk to us about what are the biggest challenges and how we can begin to look for solutions. I think we're having a network challenge, quite unfortunate, because I really wanted to hear his thoughts on a way out of this quagmire we find ourselves. But thank you very much, Reverend, for speaking with us in absentia. All right, let's tell you that with the festive season looming, the highway corridor along Kogi State's Lokoja, Koton-Karfi, Abaji Express route, a major north-south artery, is getting urgent attention. State and federal agencies have commenced the inspection of the corridor, while contractors saddled with effecting emergency works have pledged temporary openings. We're on a short break. We'll be right back with the news. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. I'm delighted to say we're able to get back Reverend Ladi Thompson. We really want to get his thoughts on the matter further. I will rephrase the question I asked you before we lost you for a bit. You have been, this matter is not a new one, you have been on the matter of Christian genocide for decades, and it seems no one is listening. But do you really think this government can solve the problem, considering that at some point there are accusations that there is maybe involvement, accusations against the government of being involved in this?
Thank you. Now, first of all, complicity by governance is nothing new. We're dealing with a hydra that has been working on Nigeria with a new template from the late 1990s. So the truth is this: if this government is ready to face truth, I think that within it, the government has what it takes to solve this problem. But the first thing it needs to do is to come out of denial, because even President Jonathan admitted that there were moles in high places in his days. Now, let me tell you something. Out of this CPC designation, there are two things that can come out for Nigeria out of it. It's an opportunity that is very rare. Number one, the value of human worth in Nigeria can be established in a way that Nigeria will be quantum leaped from where it is right now, in such a way that the 10 golden years of the Western region will be nothing compared to the development of Nigeria. Because once we value human worth and build a government for Nigeria based on that, we're going to go far. Secondly, out of this, if we handle it properly, can come a situation where right now the Nigerian naira is 1,600, 1,700 to US dollar. Out of this situation can come a result where that inflation, that rate will be brought down to, let's say, 320 naira to the US dollar. So there are two games that can come out of handling this CPC properly. And this is what we need to do. Washington right now is fair game. What President Trump has done is to confront something that nobody else dares to confront. What Nigeria now needs to do is for us to cooperate with this rare opportunity, because it is rare. Let me tell you something. I was serving as special advisor to the current president for 4 generations, and I know
Unfortunately, we have lost him again, but we got to hear a bit of his thoughts on what we can do to begin to address the situation, despite the doubts that we may have. All right, we'll take a short break. We'll tell you what's happening with the G20 summit after the break. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says his country will proceed with the G20 declaration with or without the United States, insisting that South Africa will not agree to be bullied by anyone. Ramaphosa spoke on the sidelines of receiving the declaration from the G20 Social Summit on Thursday. He said that despite global headwinds and geopolitical shifts, inequality must remain at the forefront of the G20 agenda. The United States had warned South Africa not to issue a joint leaders declaration at the G20 summit in Johannesburg this weekend, saying it would block any outcome presented as a consensus position.
You, as part of the social summit, you are getting our people to speak for themselves, not only to be spoken about by the political leaders. It is the people who are speaking for themselves. You are making history. The initial history was made in Brazil when President Lula convened a social summit of the G20. But you are making history because this is the very first time that a social summit of the G20 is being held on African soil, and you can applaud yourself.
Tonight returns with business, sports, and entertainment news.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has warned the public against engaging with an entity known as Zoldal Microfinance Bank Limited, which claims to be licensed and operates branches in Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, and Kanu. The CBN clarified that Zoldal is not authorized to conduct banking or microfinance activities in Nigeria and is absent from its list of licensed institutions, citing Section 2 of the BOFIA 2020. The Apex Bank stressed that only duly incorporated companies with valid CBN licenses can operate as banks. Nigerians were urged to avoid transactions with Zoldal as dealings with unlicensed operators are at individuals' own risk. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, also called NUPRC, has reiterated its commitment to transparency as it prepares to launch a new licensing round on December 1st. Commission Chief Executive Engineer Benga Komolafe, represented by Deputy Director Efemona Basi, spoke at the close of a two-day strategic workshop for journalists in Lagos. Komolafe said the engagement underscores the Commission's high regard for the media, describing journalists as constitutional watchdogs under Section 22. It's time for the stock market report. It was a bit of a wobbly Thursday on the Nigerian exchange as the all-share index slipped by 0.32% to close at 144,187.03 points, reminding investors that the market sometimes likes to test our emotional strength almost as much as our financial one. Now, the market cap held at 91.71 trillion naira. Now, today's sector's performance told a more dramatic story, from banks losing their footing to insurers taking the steepest slide of the day and oil and gas offering only the tiniest cushion. It was a session where resilience, not returns, did most of the heavy lifting. Now, let's take a look at some of the numbers for today. Now, banking sector took a nosedive to close at 1.06%. Insurance was the hardest hit today and it closed at 3.82%. Oil and gas also down, closed at 0.4%. Consumer goods in the red as well, 0.32%. And industrial goods closed at 0.01%. And that's where we'll leave the markets tonight. A day of dips, drags, and a dash of sector-wide reality checks. But as always, the NGX keeps the story interesting. We'll be watching to see whether investors return with fresh optimism or keep their seatbelts fastened for more turbulence. My name is Chamu Dabeng, and that's a wrap on Business Tonight.
Welcome to Sports Update. I'm Favor Itua. Nigeria's Super Eagles have moved up 3 places to 38 in the latest FIFA World Rankings despite their failure to secure qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The improvement follows a dominant 4-1 victory over Gabon and a 1-1 draw with Democratic Republic of Congo in the African playoff, which Nigeria eventually lost 4-3 on penalties. The results earned the Super Eagles 1,502.46 points, placing them 5th in Africa behind Morocco, Senegal, Egypt and Algeria respectively, with Morocco still the highest-ranked African side. Spain retained top spots globally ahead of world champions Argentina and France. With the African Cup of Nations scheduled for December, the improved ranking offers Nigeria optimism as a strong African campaign could further enhance their global standings. Still talking football, Katsina United have received approval to host their remaining Nigeria Premier Football League home matches at the Rashid Yekini Stadium in Ilorin after a ban on the Muhammadu Dikko Stadium. The club was sanctioned following fan misconduct during a matchday 12 fixture against Barawo FC, which led to a banishment to Jos. Now, after reviewing logistics and facilities, the league body directed the team to relocate to Ilorin from matchday 14. The NPFL also ordered tight security and proper matchday arrangements for all fixtures. Katsina United will face Eyimba behind closed doors in their first game at the new venue on Monday. The club are currently 13th on the log with 17 points from 13 matches. DR Congo will headline the 2026 FIFA World Cup Intercontinental Playoffs as the highest-ranked team in the six-nation field. 42 teams have already secured World Cup spots, leaving 2 places open for March. DR Congo, seeded number 56 globally, moved straight into one of the playoff finals where they will face the winner of New Caledonia versus Jamaica. Iraq received the second automatic final slot in the opposite bracket. Bolivia and Suriname will contest the other semi-final. All matches will take place in Mexico between March 23rd and 31st in the cities of Guadalajara and Monterrey. DR Congo reached this stage after beating Cameroon and Nigeria in the African playoff and now stand 1 win away from returning to the World Cup for the first time in 52 years. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. Entertainment is up next with Kate.
Kate has entertainment news. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Felicity. How are you doing today?
I'm great.
All right. In the world of entertainment for tonight, Nigeria reels from 2 tragic incidents: the abduction of 25 schoolgirls in Kebbi and a deadly attack on a Kwara church. Music star Davido called for unity, urging anyone with information to aid rescue efforts. Rapper Fowls demanded President Tinubu resign, highlighting government's failure to protect lives, while actress Bukola Arugba revealed 3 relatives were kidnapped in the Kwara attack, challenging official reports, while producer Don Jazzy called for accountability from security chiefs, while Pastor Jerry Eze and gospel singer Nathaniel Bassi prayed for decisive action against banditry and kidnappings, warning that Nigeria faces a critical season. Now moving on to exciting news, Toronto-born superstar The Weeknd has made history as his After Hours Till Dawn tour crosses $1 billion, becoming the highest grossing tour by a male solo artist. Since 2022, the tour has sold over 7.5 million tickets across 153 shows in North America, Europe, Latin America, and Australia, including record-breaking stadium runs in Toronto and Los Angeles. The tour has also donated over $8.5 million to charity, with proceeds from the 2026 leg supporting the World Food Program. Now that does it on entertainment news for tonight. My name is Kate Adeogun.
And that's our offering tonight. As always, we would love your feedback, and please share your eyewitness report to us using the number being displayed now on your screen. On social media, you can follow us on all platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.